Jingiwala, my name is Melissa Lucashenko. I'm a Bundjalung novelist, essayist and short story writer. And what excites me about fiction is the possibilities are limitless when you enter the world of fiction as opposed to the world of the concrete. The imagination is what's going to save us from capitalism and global boiling, and so fiction is one means that I use to do that. If I had a golden rule for writing, it would be two actually. The first is what Winston Churchill said famously: never use a long word when a short word will do, which I think is invaluable advice for a writer. And the second thing is something that Stephen King said, which is the adverb is not your friend. You can go too far with that one. You don't always have to cut the adverbs, but just remember that the adverb is not the friend and ally that it pretends to be. Have I ever lost my confidence halfway through a writing project? I think I lose my confidence halfway through every day, let alone every novel. Usually I write a novel from beginning to end. I don't chop and change between chapters and scenes. So reading what I've written the day before, which naturally leads into the subsequent scene, is how I kind of get the momentum going. But yeah, writer's block, I think writer's block dogs everyone, and giving myself permission to write first drafts is the best way out of that. In terms of writing that is set in times other than our own, I asked my friend Tony Birch how to write a historical novel, because Tony's a professional historian, before he became a leading literary novelist. And he gave me the best advice that he could, which is don't write a historical novel, just write a novel. And I took that to mean that if the characters are strong, if the plot is strong, provided I knew the era that I was writing about, then the normal rules of writing would apply and would lead to quality work. In Eden Glassy, I've got two timelines. I've got the 1850s colonial era in Brisbane, and then I've got 2024, so the current era in Brisbane. What I learnt through that process was that being a writer who plots minutely before I start writing a book is even more important when you've got two different timelines. I was influenced in doing that by an Irish novel called The Secret Scriptures by Sebastian Barry. He did it differently. I put my timelines in separate chapters, in consecutive chapters usually, but not always, to separate the eras and make it easier for my reader. I was also influenced by a Thea Astley book called A Kindness Cup, where she actually entangles three different historic eras, which works, but I wasn't confident enough to try three eras, and I didn't actually need to. The two eras worked for my purposes. And as always, I put the reader at the centre of the process and tried to make my books accessible. I try and write complex books in simple language. If you're writing for the HSC or for your own enjoyment, or if you want to be a professional writer, it's good to understand your values. Know what your own values are and write from those values, and you won't go far wrong. And tell the truth.